Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. I hope you are doing well. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week last week. And I'm thanking you for joining me tonight to another episode of Parenting After Dark. And I started talking. Hello, my name is Antoinette. I apologize. I always forget that. Last week we started talking about what is my role? What is my role as a parent? And the topic of that was identity. And wanted to actually continue on that. So much has just been popping up in my heart that I want to say. And it's my desire and my heart's desire to really talk to you and speak with you authentically from a place of a parent and from someone who recently, I want to say recently, have begun to just step out and really want to do this as a podcast and to really talk with parents, to really encourage parents, to empower parents with information, to empower you through words of encouragement, saying that you can do it if you find yourself at a place where you're struggling in your parenting. This podcast is for you. And I shared some of my story in my episode where I first launched about my struggle of really not knowing what to do past meeting my daughter's basic needs. And so out of that, I've always wanted to do something to help parents. I had a heart for single parents because I'm a single parent. And so this was something that really resonated with me. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, number one. But number two, there's a lot of different um, podcasts, shows or whatever that really is talking about different things, and it's great because people have access to more information now than ever before. But I wanted to do this for parents because I struggled in that area, really not knowing what to do. And so last week we started talking about what is my role. I didn't know what my role was. I just thought it was to take care of her and to make sure that she's okay and she has the things that she needs. But I didn't understand that there was so much more to parenting than just meeting the basic needs. There is the character development, there is spiritual development, social, emotional development. And I didn't know. I just didn't know. And as a result, by the grace of God helped me because I was praying, I think more when my daughter was younger as a parent, saying, Lord, what do I do about this? How do I do about that? I would read an article or I would ask colleagues who I work with, or I had friends that I can go to. I had some family that I can go to, of course. And then I had my village, and I talked about that. I did a couple of episodes on how to build your village. So I was really trying to get information from everywhere. But I was also ashamed. And so that played a role in me really not coming out and being, you know, open with people because I was ashamed not to know certain things. I thought, any parent and every parent, knew certain things or, at least knew what was expected. And so that part I struggled with. But over the years, by the grace of God, I began to overcome that. And God began to just show me that it's okay. It's okay to ask for information when you don't know. It's okay to, pursue, certain things and, to become aware through, just watching maybe a specific series or documentary on something. It was like all these different ways I was able to begin to get and understanding, but my greatest understanding came from God Himself, where I began to go to Him and I begin to say, Lord, what do I do about this? And there are some things literally that He dropped in my heart to do, and it made it easier because when He dropped it in my heart, then I began to really understand things that I hadn't understood before. And so He had always told me and like reinforced this idea to pray and to study the word. I mean, that was something that He gave to me in a dream. And He said, your life would be better if you studied the word and if you prayed. Now, I did. I started doing it and I did see improvement in my life. But over the years, life happening, I had, just my struggle with my daughter's father and him not really being there and supportive and, just the daily struggles of a single parent and going to work. I kind of fell off from that. I really did. I kind of fell off. And I love God, but I just wasn't doing my thing the way I was supposed to, reading my word and praying. But let me tell you, God is faithful even when we are not. And He loves us even when we mess up intentionally on purpose because we just want to do what we want to do. He loves us and He is so patient and so kind. And so my situation is probably like so many other parents. You come home from work, you're tired, and you're like, okay, I'll do it in the morning, or I'll read my word on the train, and that's great, that's fine. God meets us where we're at, and so I kind of stumbled. Part of my parenting, I kind of stumbled through it, where I'm just like shot in the dark prayers, and Lord help me, and I don't know, and He did. He never failed to help. He never failed to step up, and that's how I learned about faithfulness. Is through God being consistent in His attitude towards me as a mother. And so I wanted to talk about a role as a parent because we actually have many roles that we take on as a parent. We are teachers, we are guides, trainers, we're, you know, let's see, we drive, we're babysitters. I mean, I think the list goes on and on. I'm trying to just draw, but it's so many things that we do. So it's not just really one role, but the focus of what we do is it must be strategic. In anything that we do with regards to our children, it must be strategic. And that's what I wanted to talk a little bit more about. I mentioned it last week in the first episode, but I want to talk about uh, training up your child. In Proverbs 22:6, it says to train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart from it. Now, I thought it was interesting that it says to train, and training means consistent, it means strategic. If you wanted to lose weight, if you wanted to save money to invest, or if you wanted to save money for a home, right? You have to be consistent in that behavior. If it's targeting your abs, if it's upper body strength, whatever it is, it has to be strategic, which means you're only going to do those particular exercises, different reps, maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week. You may have to modify your diet and have more protein or more this, but that training is consistent because you're looking for a specific result. And so when God encourages us and tells us to train up our children in a way that they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart. It's just basically saying if you do the work of teaching them and being consistent with that teaching, guiding them and being consistent with that guidance, discipling them and being consistent with that discipling, It all goes a part of that development and that value system. So that once they get older, they're used to that training, that guidance, that discipling. And so that's how they're going to live. Well, mom taught me to, say my prayers before I go to bed. That's something that they're going to value and they're going to most likely continue. I'm saying most likely because they have their will comes into play, right? So they may do it, right? But they will do it and they may get on their own pattern of routine and consistency. And so you're teaching them that so that when they get older, they can continue that pattern. They can continue to do that consistently. And training is strategic again. Um, if it's, if you're training them to save money so that they can live on a budget, if you are training them to have manners and to be courteous, right? So that they can learn how to interact with people and be pleasant and respectable, right? All of that is a training process. And so when we're talking about identity, right? You want to do the same thing. You want to be consistent and you want to be strategic in telling them who they are and that they have come from God and that they have a purpose, that God has a plan for their life. And a part of their identity is who He has created them to be. They can love, they can forgive, they can um, lead, they have the capacity to have relationships and friendships, and it's so much. The character development part of it, all of that goes into identity, and that takes time and it takes training and consistency. And so I wanted to kind of touch on that because I realized that I myself as a parent wasn't always consistent. And as a result, I can see where my not consistency, played a role. And so I wanted to make sure that I emphasize that so that parents can understand, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent in what you're doing to make sure you get the results that you want to get. And that's important because in this culture today, there's a lot that is going on. And I just want to talk honestly. This culture is very different. In the years that, growing up, this is a very interesting culture. And it's one that is vying for the attention of our children. It is strategically and consistently coming after our children's attention, their identity and who they are. I think there's been I'll try to get you guys some numbers for the next time, but just looking at the numbers of teen depression and anxiety and suicide, it's interesting. I want to say interesting because it seemed to specifically be targeting this generation of students, of teens, of adolescents. And so we have to be just as strategic and consistent to kind of counter this culture and the climate of this culture. And I want to say that respectfully because the influence of this culture is very strong. And if you're not confident in who you are and you're not confident in who God created you to be, it will take a toll and it can take a toll. And it can cause, you know, a person to, maybe not esteem themselves the way they should or not feel worthy It really is something that as parents, I just want to, really get your focus on in terms of understanding this culture and what it does and how it operates. And I don't want to get too much into it, but you can see what's going on and you can see the messages that are being sent. And so we have to, I would just encourage parents to really be on top of this training and consistency in the area of identity because it is real. And there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of focus on feelings. And it's okay to be in tune with your feelings, right? If you're talking with your kids and they're saying they're feeling some type of way, listen to them. Listen to them and listen to them well. And listen with the intent to respond and not react. But it's okay to talk about your feelings and express your feelings, right? But we have to be careful about how much attention we're paying to our feelings because feelings can change. One day we all know this. You can be feeling really good, and the next day you're just like, I just want to be alone and have time to myself. And all of that is okay. But when it comes to this culture and identity, there's a lot that is going on, and I want parents to really understand. Please have a conversation and continuous conversation. I want to retract that. Have a continuous conversation with your children. If they have questions and you don't know, say, you know what, I don't know, but let me see, let me find out, let me talk to somebody, let me get some more information. Okay, but talk to them and continue to encourage them in the way that they should go. Continue to encourage them in that relationship with God because that's going to be their anchor, right? That's going to be their anchor. And so I think that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. I want to kind of go in a little deeper on um, identity next week. I had something that I wanted to share, but I didn't have it. But I'll have it for next week's show. But I just want to just emphasize that training up is being consistent with reading the word. If you have young children, get them a children's Bible that has all the wonderful pictures and stories in it about God and God's love and read with them and get animated when you read with them and really get them involved and then you'll see their little eyes and uh, light up and they might want more stories and so you give them more stories, you read more stories, you engage them in conversation and get their thoughts on it. If you have adolescents and teens, I think one of the best ways to really talk about identity is let them talk. Ask them what they think about certain things, right? You don't want to just jump right in. Do you know who you are? You don't want to do that. But you do want to have a genuine, authentic conversation with them. And then at some point, you can segue that conversation into identity and ask them, like, have you thought about your future, what you want to go into? And then you can talk about, well, who do you feel that you are? Do you feel like you're an artist? Do you feel like you're a rapper? Like just basic conversation and listen with the intent to understand and to respond. And then again, it's a continuous conversation. And then based on their responses and what they say, you can begin to just encourage them in their identity in Christ. Like this is the way God made you. He made you to love. He made you with a character. He made you with the ability to understand wisdom and knowledge. You have gifts, you have talents. All of that is on the inside of you. And you discover who you are as you get older. You begin to discover different parts of you. And so get more clarity on it, but begin to encourage them and begin to talk to them and have real, you know, deep conversations. When I say deep, I mean in a sense where allow them the opportunity to genuinely express themselves with you, their struggles. They may take some time and maybe they're a little apprehensive, but it's about building a relationship. And when you build that relationship with them, over time, they will begin to open up. They will begin to look forward to your conversation. So if you have a date night or something planned once a week, that'll be great, right? Or every 2 weeks, that'll be great. You don't always have to go out. You can do something indoors and just cook a nice dinner or whatever. But you're being consistency. You're being consistent with your time that you're spending with them. You're being consistent with the message that they are loved, that they are wanted, that they have their identity is in Christ, that God loves them and He made them with a strategic purpose. Okay. And also, one thing I wanted to mention, and I'm looking at my note here, that when you're thinking about training, one of the things I started doing is I started researching the military, right? And how they do training. And if I'm not mistaken, each military branch has what's called a creed, which is what I guess, their mantra, what they live by, or how they train their soldiers. And it really is, in my personal opinion, a reshaping of their identity to become from civilian to being a soldier and what that looks like. And they all go through this intensive, I think, 8 weeks to I think as much as maybe 12 to maybe 16 weeks of that initial training where they are everything that you were. It's like they're like, nope, we have to reshape your whole mindset. We have to reshape you physically to get you to understand that you are now a soldier. And I thought it was very interesting that they all have these creeds where it says, I will, or I am, or things like that. And so if you have time, look it up and just look at the creeds for the Navy, for the Marines, the Air Force, and the Army. Look at those creeds, and you will see what I'm talking about. And so the military understands this, right? They are consistent in everything that they do in making soldiers and creating soldiers because there's a specific job or task and they have to be trained in a certain way so that they can protect and serve our country so that they can, if they need be, they if they have to be sent to war, then they're prepared for that. That training is a preparation for something later on. But one of the things they also stress in that training is excellence. Everything being immaculate, everything, being on time, all the things that are essential in life. And so I just want you to kind of take that away that they spend millions upon millions of dollars training these soldiers to equip them and to prepare them. And so as parents, we have the same role that we need to play in equipping and preparing our children for later on in life, for what God has called them to do, for their purpose. And so I'm going to actually give you some more ways to do it. And so that you can understand now how. You know why, but now I want to give you the how. And I'll do that in the upcoming weeks. I'll share with you how to do it. I gave you a little bit tonight, but I'm going to give you some additional information on how to do it and to be strategic in it. So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for taking the time to listen in. If you're catching the replay, give me a shout out. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Please feel free to email me at the number one parenting after dark at gmail.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Have a great week.